It's time for your first look at the DC Finest Collection. Welcome back to Comics Are Dope. I'm BJ Kicks, and this is a very special video. As a card carrying member of the Justice League, I am super excited that I get to give you a first look at a brand new publishing initiative from DC, and this is the DC Finest Collection. It's a brand new slate of thick trade paperbacks that basically tell stories from the entire chronology of your favorite heroes in chronological order, regardless of the creator, regardless of the storyline. It's all here and it's all happening. So let's dive in. Now, before we dive in, I do have to give a huge thanks to DC for gifting these collections to me and allowing me to present these to you. Now, what is the DC Finest Collection? Well, it's a brand new line of thick trade paperbacks that give a comprehensive story of some of your favorite characters as well as genres throughout DC's publishing history. And so what I've got here are the first four DC Finest collections, and we're going to take a pretty detailed look at them. I'm going to thumb through them for you. I'll show you what's covered. We're going to have a good time. So let's go ahead and get things started with my favorite superhero. That's right, it's Batman. So the Batman Year 1 and 2 collection. And let's just grab it right here. Now, this contains Batman Year 1, which is written by Frank Miller with art by David Mazzucchelli. And this also collects Batman Year 2, which is done by Mike Barr and Alan Davis. And it collects a bunch of Batman and Detective Comics issues in between. Some really, really cool stuff. Just thumbing through here. Actually, let's look at it. This collects Batman Year 1 and 2. Collects Batman 401 through 412, Batman Annual number 11, and Detective Comics issues 568 through 579. So again, very seminal storytelling with Frank Miller here on Batman Year 1. But then we've even got like some of the first appearances of Jason Todd in here. We've got Batman Year 2 with those iconic covers by Todd McFarlane with Batman inexplicably carrying a gun. So there's a lot to like about this collection. Now, this, of course, covers a period from 1986 to 1987. And this is the period post Crisis on Infinite Earths. We needed a new origin story for Batman, and Frank Miller and David Mazzucchelli, boy, do they deliver. Now, all the stories in here are really cool, and it's awesome to kind of go and look at this book as a sort of time capsule, just seeing the different Batman stories, the art, and the types of adventures he's in. But then once you get to Batman Year 1, toward the middle of this volume, the tone just decidedly changes. I forgot how many iconic images of Batman all come from this one 4-issue series. So it was really, really fun to see that. But then again, as you go on, you get to see Batman Year 2. You get to see the Second Chances storyline, which introduces us to Jason Todd, trying to steal the tires off the Batmobile. What's funny? I didn't realize how like the first appearance of Jason Todd has him with a, interesting relationship with a crowbar. And I'll leave it at that. But it was crazy. I just revisiting this. It's really fun to have this all in one book. Like I said, respective or irrespective of the writer, the artist, a lot of times these collections are creator focused. So my big collection of Batman Omnis is still my big collection of Batman Omnis, but I love to have this filling in the gaps between Crisis on Infinite Earths and, say, Batman Nightfall, which I think is the earliest Batman omnibus that I own. So very, very cool stuff. Now, let's get into the very first superhero. And of course, that is Superman. So next up, we've got DC's Finest, Superman, the first superhero. This collects stories by the duo that started it all, Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster, covering stories from the years 1938 to 1940 in Action Comics. issues 1 through 25, as well as Superman, his very own comic magazine, issues 1 through 5. And this has, again, key moments. This is the first superhero stories. This is the book that started it all. These are the stories that created everything that we're living in now. Like, I love Batman, but if it weren't for Superman, there'd be no Batman, there'd be no Wonder Woman, there'd be no Justice League, which we're talking about all those things today. And just thumbing through this volume, it was really cool to see just sort of the evolution of storytelling. I can't look at some of these early Superman issues without thinking of that Max Fleischer cartoon and the sort of radio announcer voice, like faster than a speeding bullet, like, and it's just kind of transports you back into time. And what I love about this is like about as comprehensive as it gets. There are like prose moments in here, different stories that Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster tell, even without pictures. Those are really cool. But I also love just looking at the quality of the remastering, the colors. This collection really, really pops. So the scans are done really well. Like I said, I don't know if all of these stories, some of them look like they've been like retouched, remastered. Others look like they might be in closer to original condition, but all look really good. Like, just look at this, right? Like, it's just the vibrancy, the yellow backgrounds, the composition. It just takes you back. Takes me back to when I was a little kid, hearing about when other people were little kids, and that's when they were reading this. So, really, really fun stuff. But that is Superman, the first superhero. Like I said, I love. One thing I forgot was that Action Comics was an anthology series, and so every story didn't have Superman. So I'm thumbing through this, like, why isn't Superman on these covers? There's just like a little circle sometimes, like, oh, by the way, Superman's in this comic book, because Superman wasn't the star; he had to grow on people. But when he did, boy, did he, right? Like that first Superman issue, and it's like, look, this is 64 pages and it is nothing but Superman. I don't know. That was just really, really cool to see. So again, Superman, the first superhero, this actually comes out along with the Batman Year 1 and 2 on November the 5th. So you can take a look or check for that at your local comic shop or wherever books are sold. And they can order it. They can special order it for you. Just call them up. Now, let's get into the next book that comes out on November the 12th. And that is Wonder Woman. Wonder Woman, Origins and Omens. Now, this collects stories from October 2007 to October 2009. And it's got Wonder Woman Volume 3, issues 14 through 35, Outsiders, 5 of a Kind, Wonder Woman / Grace #1, and The Brave and the Bold #7. This is mostly written by Gail Simone. There are some stories by Mark Waid in here. There are other creators on here. Aaron Lepresti handles the bulk of the artwork. And this is, basically the modern Wonder Woman run that everyone points to. Like, there are other Wonder Woman runs, of course, from the past. But when you're talking about like modern Wonder Woman stories, Gail Simone's is a classic. Art by Bernard Chang in here. Some of this. We've got some artwork by the Dodsons. Some really, really cool stuff in here. And while I'm thumbing through the Wonder Woman book or showing you, one thing I love about these DC Finest collections is that they collect different eras of comic books. And so even with this first slate of releases in November, we've got the Golden Age represented with the Superman collection. We've got the Silver Age collected with the Justice League collection we're going to talk about in a second. We've got the modern represented with this Wonder Woman. We've even got Bronze Age with the Batman Year 1 and 2. So all different types of comic book eras are covered in here. And there's a little bit for everybody. And the last book we're going to cover today comes out on November the 19th. This is Justice League of America, The Bridge Between Earths. This contains stories from the Justice League of America from like 1966 to 1969. So firmly in the silver age of comics. And what's really cool about this is that it's got stories, like I said, featuring the whole Justice League. So you get to see not just Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, but people like Green Arrow, The Flash, Green Lantern. Really, really cool stuff. Even Martian Manhunter is in this volume. And like I said, it's really awesome just to see the different time periods. This is stuff that obviously I didn't live through. And so I get to look at this stuff for the first time and really appreciate, I think on the first thumb through, I just appreciate the art, but also just kind of the expansiveness of the storytelling. Even like the attempts to be like culturally sensitive, you can see kind of shine through in this volume. One thing I like about these is these are collected in their original series order, in most cases in chronological order, unless it like, like in the case of like Batman Year One, you want that whole story together. So it's told together. But you also get in here a sort of cultural sensitivity warning like, hey, this is from back in the day. It's got some depictions from back in the day. So, tread lightly, be aware, but we wanted to present this in the full historical context. In most cases, these books appear with like their original coloring. And so that's really cool. In some cases, we know these books have been like famously retouched, but this stuff seems to be preserved in as close to its original condition as possible. And man, this is really cool. But The Bridge Between Earths collects Justice League of America issues 45 through 72 from June 1966 to June 1969. And like I said, DC basically invented the multiverse. And so to see some of the early multiversal tales before we get like the Crisis on Infinite Earths and all the other crises that DC is known for, it's cool to see this stuff in this volume. So these are just the beginning of the DC Finest initiative. What we're going to see over time is that these are all going to get built out. So that Batman Year 1 and 2 is going to get followed up by Batman The Killing Joke and other stories. It'll pick up right where that one left off. And all of these series are going to be continued, as well as there's going to be new ones. So like just before or just around Thanksgiving, we're getting a Flash collection. There might be a Robin line, or later on there's an event line. So like there's a 0 Hour collection coming up. There's a lot of really cool stuff coming from the DC's Finest library. What I love about it is like, first of all, the spines, right? So sometimes you get these types of collections and they've got these volume numbers on them. These don't have volume numbers anywhere. The way you know where you are in the timeline is there's literally a timestamp right there on the spine. So 1966 to 1969. If you wanted to collect all of DC in chronological order, you could do that. If you wanted to collect just the Justice League stories or just the Batman stories, which is probably what I'm going to do. I'm probably just going to go all in on Batman and pick up the other stuff, just as I see fit. But you can do that and you don't feel like there's a gaping hole in your collection. You just, hey, let's look, want to read some 60s Batman, then let's read some 60s Batman. So that's really cool. These are really thick trades. Like there's like, what? Nearly 30 issues, 25 to 30 issues in each of these. So this is great for binge reading. They're paperbacks, they're sturdy. Like I wouldn't mind putting this in a backpack, taking it on a plane, taking it on a long commute. So even that's great for portability as opposed to some of the, huge hardcovers that us collectors are used to. But probably best of all, what I love about these is the fact that they fit together well on shelves. Like just look at these lined up next to each other. Like they just look awesome. They are made for collecting. They're made for reading. I don't know if there is a line of books that has like just a better overall value and vibe than this. Like it checks all the boxes in one. So I am super excited about the DC Finest collection, and I am super grateful that DC allowed me to show them to you first. And so like I said, these are starting to come out next week. November the 5th is when the first of these release, and they'll be coming out every week. So check your local comic shop, ask if they can pre-order them for you. Go look for these at your local comic shop. Look for them at, Barnes and Noble, your local retailer, even your favorite online retailer. They should have them in stock. And I'll see you guys in another review soon. Until then, huge thanks to DC. You guys stay safe, stay awesome, and read something dope today. Peace.